Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most exciting space stories of the year. The complete recap of NASA's Artemis II mission, from right after launch all the way to that unforgettable splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. This was the first time humans have flown beyond low Earth orbit since the Apollo era, and it went better than anyone could have hoped. The crew, NASA astronauts Reid Wiseman as commander, Victor Glover as pilot, Christina Koch as mission specialist, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen as mission specialist, were already strapped into the Orion spacecraft called Integrity when the SLS rocket roared to life on April 1st. Once the solid rocket boosters separated and the core stage did its job, Orion was on its own, riding the upper stage into a high Earth orbit. That's when the real adventure began. Just over an hour after liftoff, the crew took manual control for the first time. They practiced maneuvering the spacecraft, using the departing upper stage as a target to test the systems that will be critical for future missions. Everything checked out perfectly. Then, on flight day 2, came the big one. The Translunar injection burn. Orion's main engine fired for several minutes, giving the spacecraft the push it needed to break free of Earth's gravity and set course for the moon. From that moment on, there was no turning back. The 4 astronauts were heading into deep space. Over the next few days, the team settled into a routine. They monitored life support systems, ran navigation checks, and even handled a small issue with the wastewater vent that got clogged with ice. The crew worked with mission control to warm things up and get it flowing again. A perfect example of how these test flights iron out the kinks before we send people to live and work on the moon. They also captured stunning views of Earth shrinking behind them, sharing photos and videos that had the whole world watching. By April 6th, the crew reached the highlight of the mission, their swing around the far side of the moon. Orion didn't enter orbit. It flew a precise free return trajectory that used the moon's gravity to slingshot them back toward Earth. At their closest approach, they passed just a few thousand miles above the lunar surface, giving them an up-close look at the rugged, cratered far side that no human eyes had seen in person since the 1970s. They described it as breathtaking, dark, mysterious, and completely unlike anything we see from Earth. At one point, during the flyby, they even got to witness a total solar eclipse from space as the moon passed between them and the sun. That same day, the astronauts broke a record that had stood for over 50 years. They reached a distance of 252,756 miles from Earth, farther than the crew of Apollo 13 ever traveled. Altogether, the round trip covered more than 694,000 miles. Think about that for a second. 4 people, traveling through the empty vastness of space, relying completely on Orion's systems to keep them safe, healthy, and on course. The journey home was just as carefully planned. On the return leg, the crew performed smaller trajectory correction burns to fine-tune their path. They ran more tests on the spacecraft's heat shield, propulsion, and communication systems. They even took time for a group hug inside the capsule, sharing the moment and reflecting on what they'd just achieved. Every system performed flawlessly, giving NASA the confidence they needed for the next steps in the Artemis program. Finally, on flight day 10, April 10th, it was time to come home. The crew completed one last small burn to put Orion on the exact path for reentry. Then they suited up, stowed their gear, and prepared for the most dangerous part of any spaceflight, slamming back into Earth's atmosphere at nearly 25,000 miles per hour. That's about 32 times the speed of sound. The heat shield, which had been tested on the uncrewed Artemis I flight, had to protect them from temperatures hotter than the surface of the Sunday. At around 7:53 p.m. Eastern Time, Orion hit the top of the atmosphere over the Pacific. The crew felt the first gentle bumps as the air thickened. Minutes later, the spacecraft began to glow white-hot, creating a plasma sheath that cut off radio contact for a tense few minutes. Mission control in Houston held their breath. Then, right on schedule, the Drogue parachutes popped open high above the ocean, slowing the capsule from thousands of miles per hour down to a few hundred. Soon after, the 3 massive main parachutes unfurled, each one 116 feet across. They slowed Orion to about 20 miles per hour for a gentle touchdown. Splashdown happened exactly at 8:07 p.m. Eastern Time, right on target in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego. The capsule hit the water upright, bobbed for a moment, and settled perfectly. Recovery teams from NASA and the U.S. Navy were already in position. Boats moved in quickly, attached an inflatable collar around the spacecraft, and opened the hatch. Fresh sea air rushed in for the first time in nearly 10 days. One by one, the astronauts were helped out. First Reid Wiseman, then Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They were hoisted into helicopters and flown to the deck of the USS John P. Murtha, where doctors were waiting. All four were reported to be in excellent health, smiling, waving, and clearly thrilled to be back on Earth. They even took a moment to thank the recovery teams and everyone who supported the mission from the ground. In the hours and days that followed, the crew was flown back to Houston for more medical checks and debriefings. They've been sharing their stories, and the photos they brought back, especially those first human images of the moon's far side in over 50 years, are already inspiring a new generation of explorers. Artemis II wasn't about landing on the moon. It was about proving that Orion can carry people safely to deep space and bring them home. And it did exactly that. With flying colors. This mission sets the stage for Artemis III, when astronauts will actually touch down on the lunar surface, and eventually for the long-term exploration that will follow. What an incredible journey! If you want to see the raw footage of the flyby, the reentry plasma, or the exact moment of splashdown, I've linked the best NASA videos down in the description. Let me know in the comments which part of the mission excited you the most. The lunar flyby, the record-breaking distance, or that dramatic return to Earth. And if you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next big space update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Safe travels, everyone.